Hi, it's Lyle from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to, now this translates onto furniture, but I'm going to be showing you how to get a Moroccan look like this. Okay, so this is the door. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, everything that I do in this today is just translates onto furniture. It's just that sometimes people have businesses and they want to have something to stage their furniture behind, or you're wanting to create a panel in your home, or you just want to do this on a dresser. It doesn't really matter. Everything I do, just do it on your furniture. I'm just doing this because it's going to be a nice backdrop for the studio. Right, okay, what do you need? So you need some sort of shape, first of all, to follow with your molds. Then you need a mold, that like a trimmings. This is trimmings 2 from IOD, so it's got the trim in it, yeah? So you need a trim mold, whatever one you have would be great. If not, you can just roll sausages with clay, and you can actually just do it yourself. That's fine as well. You don't have to have the mold. And I've got another mold here, which is, man, what is it? You know what it is?
Classical Elements, is it?
It is. It's the only one he knows. I think it's the only one he knows. Yeah, this is Classical Elements.
I know that's Trimmings
2. I'm only going to be using maybe...
I know what Trimmings 1 looks like as well.
I'm only going to be maybe using a part shape of this. Why do I keep going back to these two? Because these two are the two workhorses of my molds. I would imagine that most of my videos, if I'm looking to do any sort of relief, I would use this, and I always go back to this one. So I've got this from the Bella stamp, which is the outside sort of stamp part. It doesn't quite fit in here, so I'm going to ink it, but I only want the first line, if you know what I mean. So I'm not really worried whether the rest of it prints out, but I do need to hit that first line. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of set up so you get the drill. Always stamp on a hard floor. I put some plastic sheet under my door because I don't want my floor to get messy. I think it's a little bit late. It's covered in gold leaf from gold gel beads from last week when it all spurted everywhere. So I've got plenty of ink on my stamp, and I reckon I'm probably going to get it twice in this recess of my door. So kind of aiming for straight, if that's your jam. And I'm only really kind of caring about this first line here. Oh, I shifted it a little bit, so already it's going to be a little bit interesting. Okay, this is giving me the shape. Like this. I'm not quite sure whether I might make these edges straight because they really don't it's a little bit big for the job. So there is my thing to follow. Can you see this line here? This is the inside line that I'm going to follow with my molds. Then if you've never molded anything before, I'm just going to run through it incredibly quickly. But I have a molds 101 video, which I'll get Martin to put here. See, pointing in the right direction, Martin. Which one I'm going to use? The rope one, because that's the one I like and it's the one I use all the time. I've got a big dusty brush for my release agent, which is just corn flour. I'm just making sure that I've got plenty on it. When you put it in, batter it down. Make sure there's not too much because you'll lose a lot of definition if you do not do that. Then you get a bit of clay. I use Das. That's the clay I like. It doesn't do much shrinking and cracking. Then you make a sausage about the shape of your mold. Put it in, and when you got it in, you're going to need a scrapey tool to go down it. Oh, not with that much force, Leslie. Right, that way. And pushing it in on this side and making sure that you're kind of not lifting it out so that you don't lose any definition on your mold. Just gather all the excess in your hand because you're going to need that for your next sausage, because this is going to take a hot minute because I'm going to do all of the panels with the same pattern. So just picking up all my little parts. Best thing to do is let gravity pull your mold out. There you go, there's the mold. I'm using an all-purpose glue, a thick all-purpose glue. Let's just flip this bad boy over and make sure that I get glue along the whole length of it. Boom. And then just let me use my finger to make sure it goes to all of the edges. like that. Then let's just, I think to get a nice clean edge, what I'm actually going to do is cut it here and bring it down. I'm making it complicated for myself, I know, and then continue it. I probably will really do that. I decided that was the way I was going to do it, but now there is going to be quite a bit of cleanup here, and I have to make this work. So I'm going to need to get a clay tool. Now, cleanup. Let's just talk about that for a minute, because it's not really going to be that problematic for me, to be honest with you. In fact, I'm not even going to bother cleaning this up, but normally I would. It's just that I'm going to be covering all this with a whole heap of texture, so you're better getting a clay tool. This is a little bit crude for the job here, but it was just because I want it to kind of have that bend. So I am going to get on. What were you going to say, Matty?
Fine, get on. Find a clay tool.
No.
And then
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, do you want me to get you a clay tool?
I could hear your kind of breath, like you were going to say something, and I thought he's going to say something. So then he thought I'd get a better of it, I think. Right, so I'm going to get on. I'm going to do the next stamp here. So coming along with my stamp, I'm just putting it directly underneath it, here, 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 up the upstairs, and I'm going to do the same thing with the molds, and I'm going to go and get a clay tool just so that I can make this look a little bit neater. Okay, so I've done all of that. All I'm going to say is molding is a messy job. Always do your cleanup. I haven't done any cleanup on mine today because today's video is really about textures. So we've already got one texture on this, and when we put something over the top of that, that'll give it more texture. I want to base coat this door before I lie it flat. Now I need a colour and I want some clay in it, and it has to be thick. So I'm thinking I want because tomorrow, once this dried a bit, I'm going to be putting greens over the top of it. But right now we're going to do the blues. So I'm going to put a nice big dollop of Frida blue and a reasonable dollop of Oxford navy and a great big squeeze of Provence, not Florence, Provence. And first of all, I'm going to mix this all together and see if I like it. Yes, okay. I didn't get anything to mix it with.
Grab your brush.
I was watching an old video of mine. I used to film myself. I was doing a big red cupboard with inlays. I don't know why I decided to watch it, but I was watching and I thought I've always mixed paint the same way, because you can see me and I'm explaining why I mix it this way, and I was thinking I've not really, like, okay, the video is quite interesting, my camera angles are a bit funky, but I've not really changed a huge amount. The stuff I say is still the same stuff. Right, okay. Whoop. Bit more Frida blue. I'm looking for a little bit more impact. I won't mind if I've got some of this left over, but the thing is, once you start adding texture, it gets really thick, so it doesn't go as far as you think it will. So make sure you mix it up to where you want it to be. I think this is the sort of colour I was looking for. I wasn't wanting it too bright, and I wasn't wanting it too dark. I was like doing the Goldilocks. Now I've got some clay. This is Bentonite clay. I'm just going to put this in it, but I might need to open the other one. A little bit goes a long way, so it could thicken it up. It's kind of like whatever thickness you can work with, really. I think I want it just a it's like I'm baking a cake. Don't come to my house. Right, I'm wondering whether I want a little bit more than that, or no, I'll keep it at that. Now, I have a different sort of array of things here. Spatula, tappy. Don't know what this is about, but I thought I'd bring it out. This scratchy thing. There isn't anything on the end of this. It was a rubber spatula, but I thought that might make an interesting texture in. I've got a blade to kind of smooth it out. I've also got a roller and I've got a transfer stick. I think these are all things that we're just going to have to play around with. I also have an IOD stamp. So let's focus on this part here. Now, I'm only taking the texture to here and a bit in here. I'm not going near my molds, really, to be honest with you, because, well, I'll be touching up against them because they're wet, and I don't like painting onto wet molds, and they're not going to be that colour anyway. So how am I thinking? I think really just have to take the builder's sort of approach to application here. I think we just need to kind of like put it on and see what we can do with it. I don't want it too thick, but I want to have texture because obviously it's got to dry. And that is always the problem in the winter in the stable. Now, I'm applying with a spatula, my scraper instead of a brush, because a brush isn't what you need for applying texture if you're looking to kind of have it quite thick. You know, you're kind of, now you can see how thick that is. That's mighty thick. Now you're probably thinking I've lost my mind this week, but you know, you probably think that every week. Right, I'm going in with the IOD stamp first to see what that does. I wouldn't say it does an awful lot, to be honest with you. Let's try that again. Okay, epic feel on that. Let's try this. That's not good either. Try the roller. Oh, now we're talking. Right, okay. And I think this is just going to be a matter of you kind of finding your vibe here. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing this on a piece of furniture, you will have to sand some of this texture down. I probably won't because it's going to be a staging piece for me. But I want it with something. Let's see what this does. Yeah. It's giving something else. It's doing something. Let's see what this spatula does. I think the spatula might be quite good for corners. Now, I think you're kind of getting the drill of what I'm actually doing here. I'm making texture on my piece.
Showing up well on camera.
Is it?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to have to get a brush to do this part. Just bear with me. I've got a perfect brush. Here he is. Ta-da! Right, look at this. Now, nice and thick if you're having to use a brush, and all I'm going to do with my brush is get up beside these molds. I'm not going to go any further than that. Now, this is why I said to you it doesn't matter about the cleanup on this piece, because it's not really going to matter. You don't need to worry about it. Any other kind of molds you must clean up and make sure that it's, you know, there's not a lot of, because when you go to paint it, you're going to have a whole lot of texture. Now, I've got the opportunity now to kind of like do something like this down in here. Now, as I said, it's not going to be blue this door, but I needed some colour to put underneath it, and I wasn't quite sure which one, so I kind of opted for this just because I thought it would be a bit kind of fun. I want all that round there. I'm just going to go round here to make sure that I'm not going to do anything with the centres for till the next part of this footage, because I've come up with a good idea. You'll see in a minute. Right, okay. Now, I think that the playing with the textures, I think between the roller and the jaggy edge scraper, I think I'm probably, the stamp didn't do anything. I think you would need to, like, see if I did it this thin, just like this, and I maybe put the stamp on it, then I think that might work, although my stamp's really muddy now. I think it's just my stamp's got a bit muddy, but I think the thinner it is, you might get something like that, but because I can kind of see it here. So, you know, fiddle around with that. So between my jaggy thing and my roller, and my scraper, I'm going to go and do the whole door with tons of texture. This video is not for those that like the smooth furniture and get all freaked out
This is
about,
not for the faint-hearted.
about there being a little bit of texture on the furniture. This is not the video for you. Okay, I'm going to get on and I'm going to do this all the way. I'm going to do the whole door. And the next time you see the door, it's going to be lying flat. So I'm on to the next part. Just a top tip. If you're using clay on any of your tools, go wash them straight away. Just a matter of course. And it ruins stencils. So if you're using a stencil with bentonite clay or any of the texture mediums, they're all the same. They all kind of need to be washed off straight away. So I've went away and did that. Now the next part, let's just be honest here, we don't know. I mean, well, not we, it's my idea, but I'm not 100% sure whether it'll work. So I'm going to do, everything's got to dry overnight anyway, so I may as well add another element of drying overnight. So this is the part where if you're doing furniture, I would roll clay out very thinly, cut it and put it in the back of here. Because this is a staging door, I'm going to be using Plaster of Paris. So, but I'm not quite sure whether it will change the sort of molecular structure if I add a little bit of PVA, but I want to add a little bit of PVA to it just so that it kind of gives it a little bit more tooth and sticks on the bottom of here. I didn't want to put a layer of glue on it. First, I'll tell you my reasoning, because plaster dries quicker than the glue would dry, and I thought this is maybe, so I mean, really, to be honest with you, your guess is as good as mine. This could be a whole waste of time, and tomorrow morning me going, well, what are we going to do now? So I've got, I cut the top off a milk bottle, just to give me something to mix it in that I can throw away. A stir stick, like so. I've got some lukewarm water, because plaster works better with lukewarm water. All right, I'm just trying to work out the steps in my head. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my PVA, but PVA glue is what you call in other countries school glue, I think, yep. White school glue. So I'm not going to put much in, just maybe, I think maybe that much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make it a little bit thinner with my lukewarm water. I think this is the best way to tackle this. It might not be, but the way I'm tackling it. I think this, I don't think I've never seen anybody do this. This might be the first time. It might be the last time, depending how we go. Right, I've kind of made that the constituency of really watered down milk. There's no big gloops of like PVA. Can you see in there, Matt? And it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I'm going to add my Plaster of Paris. This is the rock hard stuff. It's called Superior Stonecast Powder. It's supposed to be extra hard. So let's just, and obviously there is instructions that come with this and tell you exactly how to use it. But I've been using Plaster of Paris since I was a kid, so I'm really not interested in what they think. It's what I think. So now I'm just adding water. Now you don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too runny either. So there's your, there's your technical explanation, but follow your instructions on your pack. Don't do what I do. It's not big or clever. Right, okay. I just want to make sure I've got no lumps, and I think I've got a few lumps at the bottom, so I'm just going to keep stirring. Methinks I need a little bit more water, just a wee bit, and I'll get to the bottom. It's because my bottom of the container is kind of like funky. Now I am going to now attempt to pour this into these where I've got the molds. Now if it pours onto the blue, I'm not going to cry into my cornflakes, because I'm going to be painting this all tomorrow. I think I'm adding a whole load of things but I think this might be, I want to try and make a tile. That's the reason. And I thought, I want to try and make this into a tile. Now I'm just hoping all my molds are glued down well. If not, we're going to have runs.
Leakage.
Right, okay. This is how it looks in the pot.
Oh, sorry.
I think Martin's just trying to, I nearly fell on the door. That wouldn't help. Right, are you ready, Marty?
Yeah, sorry. Trying to get around everything.
Right, so I'm just going to pour it into here. Now, I don't think there's any rules in doing this because I've never seen it done. So, I mean, I think you just have to make it up as you go along. Oh, see, look, my aim is not always brilliant. And I think I'm going to... There's one of my red hairs in there. Can you see it? Oh, DNA. Let's just get rid of that. Oh, right. Next one. Now, you don't have to move particularly fast with the plaster pass, but you know, don't slouch either. Oh, see, it's getting a bit giddy there. Right, I think you've seen enough of me doing this because I need to mix up more. I'm going to get my little study stick, right, and I'm just gonna, kind of like you would do with molds, just make sure there's no sort of gaps. I mean, there might be air bubbles. I mean, who knows what there's going to be, but right now, do you ever feel like you're just like a scientist? That's what I'm feeling like. I'm going to put a little bit more water in the bottom here because it's a little bit lumpy. Again, the instructions won't tell you to do that. You have to go your own way. This is my way. So I just need to make sure that, because I can see a big lump and I don't want it to ruin my vibe. Right. This one here. I'm humming now. I'm obviously feeling quite... So if I mix up about the same again, I'm going to have enough for the other side. Come on, you can do it. I can probably add to it, but now I'll get on and do this and I'll see you tomorrow morning and I'll either be happy or I'll be making some kind of excuse. It could be either or.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Do you, Marty?
Yep.
I feel like I've got a little... I don't know if I missed or I had a bit of a leak there, but so far so good. Okay, right. Okay, at the end of the footage that Martin filmed yesterday, I got plaster Paris, and what I did was I threw it onto the door. Why did I do that? I did it for extra texture, but I don't know if you know about resists. If you put something like this on, when you paint over the top of it, this gets crusty, which means that if I came along with a scraper, it would resist the blue underneath, which means it would scrape off and really reveal the blue. So it's a bit twofold, that process. I bet you're all dying to know whether it worked. It did. It did work. What did I learn? One thing. I ran out of the stone hard plaster Paris, these two panels here. These ones here have reacted fine. What I will say with adding the PVA makes them feel almost kind of rubbery. I don't think maybe I needed as much PVA as I put in. So, or indeed whether it needs it at all. I just didn't want this to fall out of the shape. I don't know whether having the moulding around would be enough to hold it in. The first time doing it, not sure. Maybe this is something that you could run with and practice or trial or do whatever, but I'll certainly revisit this. This one down here with just ordinary plaster Paris is very sort of rubbery. It's a different consistency to this. I think it should be fine when I paint it. Am I concerned? No, because this is another thing I just want to quickly say. People say this quite a lot in the decoupage group. This looks a mess. I mean, there's no denying it. It looks a mess. But it's going to get better. But it always gets worse before it gets better. Can you just stick out the dog's dinner phase? You can. You just have to. You have to trust what you're doing. So although I'm looking at this and I'm laughing to myself and going, this is a mess, it is going to come good. And you have to keep the faith that it's going to come good. So what did I do next? I've done it on all the rest, but I've left these two. I wanted to do a sort of rough tile now. I'm not looking for super straight. I'm looking for tiles that have been on here for a long time. So at first I was just going to do it without even any sort of ruler, but I thought, So I've just got a bit of broken paint stick here, and I just kind of, I tell you what I'm using. I'm using a lino cutting tool, but you could use just a sharp screwdriver or a pen nib that doesn't work anymore, or a set of scissors, anything that's going to scratch you a line down in here. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it look like it's like a faux tile. So yeah, gouge it out in some areas to make it look like it's got a bit chipped. Don't have it too neat and tidy. It wouldn't be that neat and tidy, and just fix any parts that you think need done. And this one up here, same deal. I am not going to lie. This is a messy, messy process. I like messes, but even for me, this is messy. My lovely floor that I've been trying to protect is all white now. I'm hoping that maybe if I add some water onto it once I'm finished, that it might work its way through. Do you see what I'm trying to do there? I'm trying to make it look like it's had a crack around the tile. I don't want these to look perfect. This is not the aim of the game. I mean, you could try and get them reasonably straight, but again, right, okay. Right, so once I did that, I just kind of left well enough alone. I'm happy with that. Just tidy up these edges a little bit. This one here, I think there's some of that plaster from the ordinary plaster because it feels different to these. Right, paint. What we got here. Let me just run through. In here, I've got a little bit of water. I've got 2 old paint brushes which I've immersed in the water, and I've got a smaller one to get round here in the water. So you can already tell there's going to be an awful lot of water. Cloth, although I don't know why I'm deciding to use a new one. I'm just going to move these out of the way for a minute. I've got all the greens to put on, but I want to kind of start with sort of darker greens around the edges. So let's go these 2. Oh, I forgot my double spurt there. If you've been watching my channel, you know that's what happens. Plenty of water on my brush. Now you're gonna be combating the plaster that if you've got like the release on, just brush it. Just brush it on. Try and keep as much onto it. A lot is going to fall on the floor, but right. That's as far as I want to go with this dark stuff because we're going to bring it in. Oh.
That texture's really working.
Well, I'm hoping so. Let's just get this dark stuff up in and around here first. Right. You're going to need quite a bit of water to do this because the water is going to help you get in the texture. Right. So now I'm going to come in with some furrow. Giverny, because I love Giverny and Florence together. They are quite nice. I'm going to go with a smaller brush now. Now this is just playing around with the paint until you get something you really like. And I mean, there's no real way of explaining it. I'm going to be painting our tiles white, so I'm not too worried if they get a little bit messy in this process because it is going to be a messy process. Am I blending? Let's just say I'm mingling. What other colours would I like here? Maybe a little bit of Provence because it's a lighter blue. Let's just give some of this in here. Back to this. I think the best course of action is to get quite a lot of it on, and then we can work at blending it out. That's my thoughts. Ooh. here. I'm just trying to get as much as I can on before I come back with my wet brush and start kind of let's call that reasonably good. Right, I'm going to get a bigger brush now to see if I can kind of mingle this around. So this is the other wet brush that I have, and I'm just going to start kind of moving this around now. I kind of want dark in the outer edges. Make sure you get right into those moles. Yeah. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just playing with the paint now. There's nothing really much I can tell you other than, you know, just rub it around in a way that you find satisfying, makes you happy. All of those reasons. I've got Antibes green here, which is the sort of appley or green of the lot. So let's just see how some of this looks on here. Am I trying to keep some of the blue? Yeah, no, I mean, see in here and all this sort of kind of, especially down this detail, you can make sure you've got some. All of that plaster in there needs to be made sure that there's no sort of white tails. And a little bit more Giverny. Yeah, I'm not going to show you much more than this. There's not really much more I can explain about it. It's just painting it now with all these different colours, blending them all together, making it look like it all works. Just now, that's all I'm going to do, and then we'll come back and we'll start looking at the tile parts. Okay, so the door is dry. Things are about to get messy again. You need a spray bottle, but don't use your mister. If you put paint in your mister, it won't work because it'll clog it up, but it'll break your mister. So an old bottle that once you're finished, you can toss away. So this is an old cleaner bottle, and make sure it's been rinsed out. I've got some orange. Now, you don't need a lot because the more paint you put into it, the thicker it is, the less likely it's going to spray out. So, you know, it's a good job I'm not using my turquoise, or some would be spraying there and some would be spraying in the bottle. I'm kind of low on orange, so that's probably enough orange. And I just want a little scoosh of pink. Yeah, I think that's probably. Now you're going to need water. This is where you realise that I've got this really shaky hands. Now, let's just see. If it's too thick, it won't spray on. And you really, the more you do this, you just have to kind of eyeball it, because if you make it too thick, it won't spray out. I think that's good. Now, can you see that's where the liquid line is? So I'll put that much liquid in versus 2 good scooshes of paint. Put your lid on. Now, as I said before, let's not get too caught up on the tiles. The tiles are going to be painted white and the roundabouts brown before they're gold leaf. So it doesn't really matter if they get in a little bit of a mess right now. So I'm going to start at the top, because remember, with these sorts of looks, never start at the bottom, because you'll get the bottom just perfect. You'll go to do the top will run down on the bottom and it's wasted. Ask me how I know. Right, okay. So I'm not going to do it all, but I'm just going to oh, hang on, there was water in it before I started. Oh, right. Let's just kind of, now I also have a cloth here because I want some of this heavier. Let's just kind of get some of that going down in here. Now, I think this could be the final week of you've actually thought, this week I've lost it. I mean, you've managed to stay this long, so if you're new to my channel, it's not always like this.
This is an experiment week, isn't it?
Yeah. This is where you have to kind of like, you have to kind of fiddle about with it because it does, the chalk, if you're using chalk paint, does stick into the mixer, the sprayer, not the mix. Now, I think I kind of know what I'm looking for. It should give it quite a nice look, but you don't want it to look maybe splatty like this, so kind of deal with those ones, the two splatty-ish ones. Again, it's got a little bit of a, you keep on shaking it. I'm a bit concerned about my wall. My wall will have big orange splashes on. This is the good thing about being back in the space in the stable. It means that I think I might need to have to go and get another spray bottle. This is what always happens. It breaks the spray part. Right, let's deal with some of this. It's also toning down some of the, I want drips, so that's okay, some of the green tones as well. Now, if I told you there's going to be more on top of this, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised.
Nope.
No. I'm just probably going to make it no more with this bottle. It's just having, whoa. Last week it was spurty gold. This week it's, I mean, by now, if this wasn't getting filmed, I'd have ripped the lid off it and just started throwing it at it. But
Different.
I just think that maybe you don't want to see that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, right, that's it. Now, let's just get some of this. I think it's gonna be more predominantly orangey down the bottom, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Right, I'm gonna try and leave some of these drips in. Oh, I'm loving this. Right, okay, I'm gonna make sure this gets dried before we do our next lot of paint, because this is gonna take a hot minute. Okay. Okay, you can't see my palette, but on my palette I have some Empress silk, which is red. I've got it on my roller. Again, it's another way to introduce texture. If you don't have rollers, you can just use a palette knife. If you don't have a palette knife, you can just use a kitchen spatula. You don't need all of these things to create texture, but this video is all about texture. So let's be experimental and do something different, whereas I would usually use a palette knife. Today I'm using a roller. So what I'm trying to do now, there's a knack to this that makes it look good. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but the more you roll it, the better I think it looks. I don't know why. I think it just does. So what I'm trying to do is, I've tested it out on this edge here. What I'm going to try and do is do all of the sides. So I want to do this side as well. So what I'm trying to do now is give it depth, you know, give it all, we can see that these sit in by putting this colour around here. So depth is another way, by putting on texture, it's another way of giving your furniture not only texture, but depth. So let's just kind of work on, as I said, I don't know why I think the more you roll it, the better it looks, but maybe, because I mean, like I can show you, look, right, that's, wait a minute, I need plenty of paint on my brush, right. That's it just rolled, yeah? Okay, but this is it over rolled. It's like you kind of go right down to the blue. I don't know why I think that. I mean, I just think it does, but so you're rolling around all of these to give it so that you've still got all your colours in the middle of this, but you've got all your depth. Now, And you obviously want to kind of want to do the top as well. This is an actual door, so it wouldn't work for our house because it's like a hobbit hole. All the doors in there are tiny, but I'll save this.
We've literally left all the hinges and the door handle and the
Everything
lock.
on
Everything's
it.
on it. So it's a working door. It
Which
could be
means
put into a house.
if I ever move, I can take my door with me. I mean, goodness knows what the postman might think.
This could be a thing.
But I don't care. It's not an exterior door,
Why
actually.
have boring internal doors?
It's an internal door, so which means that it would be in your house. As I said yesterday, every single thing I'm doing now translates into furniture. So don't go, well, I haven't got a door. Just get a sideboard.
This is just a canvas, isn't
Just
it?
remember, in here, I wouldn't put this. I wouldn't put the plaster in something that is going to be sellable for a piece of furniture. I would roll very thin clay like pastry, get a template, cut out your shape and glue it in. Just put glue on the background. In you go. Do your score. Let it harden. I did a faux tile tabletop for the channel members, and I poured resin on the top of it at the end, and it actually looks like tiles because my daughter came into my house and she thought it was an actual tile table. So, you know, it does work.
And it's held up as well.
Yeah.
It's in our front room. I use it as a coffee table, a laptop table, a general, you know, all my junk table. Poppy
Lego.
climbs all over it, Lego on it.
It's got flaps that flap up in the side as well, which extends it. It's had many a glass of wine on
it
with my mum.
Yeah, and it looks as good now as it did the day you did it. So it's really held up.
I think that the clay would be absolutely fine. I'm just putting plaster on this because, well, I don't know. I just wanted to try it. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm not going to keep you watching this. Once I've done this red, I might come along and just put a little bit of orange, Barcelona orange, just here and there, maybe around the corners. You know I've got a thing about corners. But all I'm doing now is just in form of texture is putting on the depth. And I promise that we're kind of nearly getting here with the door part. So I'm just going to get on and do this. Okay, I have some cornflour on my palette. I want to water it down quite significantly. I am going to run that in where I think my grout of my tile is going to be. Well, I don't think, I know that's where it is. Silly thing to say. Put that along there and along there. Next thing I'm going to do is I've got some original white on my palette. I'm not cleaning my brush from that brown, but I'm adding the white now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of working on these. Now I'd like some of the aged look around this edge, so I'm just going to get another brush and just do this. These moulds are going to be painted brown because they're going to be gold leaf, but not just any gold leaf. You have to wait and see. Yeah, today's the day, Martin.
Is it?
Yeah. I'll explain the gold leaf. So, I still want a darker edge around here. You're going to have to...
I think I know what's coming.
You're going to have to fiddle around with this a little bit to get that sort of edge. And you're going to kind of have to blend with your white. Now, you're probably going to have to give it 2 coats, as long as you don't go back in the groove where you put the dark. So, a bit of water. And you're going to really just kind of start making them look a little bit dirty around the edges. And not quite pristine white either. You don't want that. You can let that dry and come back and do a little bit of white in the centre like that, but they wouldn't be on this kind of door. They're not going to, well, it's not a real door now, is it? But I'm just going to make this a little bit darker in here.
It's still a real door.
Well, it isn't a real Moroccan door though, is it? It's not in Morocco.
It's a real door.
It's in Scotland. Man, are you quoting Disney again? Oh, no, that's DreamWorks. Oh, there's a big bit of green there. For those that don't know, that was from Shrek. But he says, I'm a real boy. Martin,
I'm a real door.
Is this why you tune in? God. Now, round here. It's just kind of, you do want this looking reasonably tidy as well. I've got to admit, I mean, it's old and it's supposed to look old, but you want your finish to be tidy. So I'm just going to get some of this brown and run it around here and then bring it in. Now, I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to get my brush and I'm going to dip it in the brown, and I'm not watering it down. Now what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to be quite crudely painting these in. As long as there's no bits of white, I'm not bothered. I just need them to be painted brown before I gold leaf them. So I'm just going to go around all these moulds in brown. And it's going to take a wee while to do the tiles and the brown. I'm also going to make this mould up here that we put on brown too. So, you know, there's a bit of work. It's just going to look nicer with my gold leaf. But as I said, it's not your life's work here. If this was an old Moroccan door, you could chip some of these moulds off and make them look a little bit broken, if that was your desire.
I think this is a brilliant idea. Like,
Do you?
have doors like this throughout your house.
But this wouldn't fit in ours. You'd have to
No, not
cut
in
this
ours,
much off.
because ours is wonky.
Well, it's not wonky. It's just made for little tiny people.
It's made for elves, you know.
Yeah, the only person that can fit in it is Jamie, because she's elf-sized. Right. I hope she doesn't watch this video. That's quite mean. No.
But just generally speaking, you know.
Well,
If
yeah.
you slab in the middle of a wall,
But the thing is,
you know, pictures and things on your walls, why not have a piece of
I
door art?
I do get it showing people's doors. I do see a lot of people in the decoupage group showing me their doors. I mean, people do their doors. I mean, just because we haven't done our doors.
Obviously, you haven't been looking.
Well, you haven't, because it is a kind of thing. Especially, I think now you see it more because people are kind of like looking for staging walls, and so they're getting old doors and making their staging so that they can. And I thought this would be quite good for me to put behind things. So you can see what I've realised. I'm just talking. I'm not actually telling you what I'm doing. Right. So you can see this is what I'm going to do. This tile effect here. I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit more white in it. And I'm going to do this with all of my moulds. Then we're going to come back and we're going to design in here. Then by then we can scrape off. Can you see this? I'll show you with my nail. Here's a pack. We'll start taking away some of this paint and chipping this away to reveal the blue chips. But I want it to dry a bit more first. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. See, it's addictive now. I'm just going to keep on doing it. But it'll reveal the chips of the blue. So, but we need to get the tiles done first. So I'm going to go paint these, all of them, so they all look like this. Then I'm going to come back, paint the design, gold leaf. No, scrapey, then gold leaf. Then I don't know what. Then it might be time to pack up for the day. I don't know. It depends how quickly I move. Okay. So I'm going to do the inside of my tiles with stencils. I think the good thing to do is look at your stencils, what you've got, and just pick a part that you think might make a nice pattern. And I've kind of taped this off. It's not hugely straight. Let's just kind of fix that. Yeah. And I think I'm going to kind of take this part here as what I'm going to do. Now, what colours am I going to use? To be honest with you, this is the paprika with a little bit of orange in it that I used on the Indian cupboard recently, along with the green that I used. I've got a dark navy here that I'm trying to use. I'm trying to use up all these paints, and I've got a mustard. So let's see what we can do, because all of these are going to work nice with that anyway. So I've got a piece of cardboard down here for offloading, and I've got little stencil brushes. Yeah, I'm going to probably need a script brush as well, but we'll get to that. And, oh man, look, there's a drill bit. I'll stick it there in case we get lost now. Okay, I'm not going to use the red right now, and I'm thinking I'm going to be quite bold. Yes, you heard it here first. I think I need to kind of hold this heart down. I think I'm going to go in with the navy. So I've got a brush, and that's not a stencil brush, it just happened to worm its way into brushes. And I'm putting just enough on my brush and offloading it. Now let's see if I can do this without bleed through, because this is incredibly awkward. I like to make things as difficult as possibly humanly possible for myself.
Always.
It's just how I roll. Now, making sure that you have hands like an octopus. I'm just wanting to do it different colours, you see, so I knew I wasn't going to get the whole thing in. So that on there, and I've got the green, and I'm just offloading the green on my brush, and I'm just going to see if I can do something like this. Now, I am not going to tell any lies here. This is going to be a wee bit fiddly. Oh, slightly moved there. Let's just go back over this again with our green. Now, that is this. And then what I'm going to do, so let's just, I want you to have an idea of how it's actually going to work. How is this? Oh gosh. Sometimes my brain's just like, is that right?
Yeah.
I lost
Yeah.
it.
Just put the pointy bit in the middle all the time.
Oh, it's this way, that's why. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Do you know, sometimes mental gymnastics on camera is not the best. Right, back to my navy. I'm only going to show you this one panel, so sorry if I'm taking a wee while to do this one, because once I've done this one, I'm just going to go away and do the rest. You don't need to see me do every single one. Martin will set up the cameras, and then you can see me messing around for quite some time trying to do this. I'm not quite sure whether I want it to look a little bit distressed.
We'll put in one of those little SpongeBob SquarePants things where it's 3 minutes later.
Yeah. 3 hours later.
4 hours later.
I tell you how long it's going to take. Martin's going to go back over to the house. Right.
I've got editing to do.
Here we go again.
The other way around.
That's it.
No, that way, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh dear. You'll see all this on the camera every time we go, what we? I'm going to do...
Pointy bit, the tip of it is always pointing outwards. Outside the moulds.
Or the middle of the tape is always in the centre. That might work as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was you, I'd pick an easier part stencil. It's all going to come good when I show you what my plans are for this. This is just the start.
It's just the base layer.
Oh, no.
It's just the beginning.
Right, and then yes, corner to
That's
corner. Yeah, see, I'm getting it now. By the time I get up to the top, I'll be so good at it, you'll not know. I don't know why I have navy in a little pot, but I do. So I sometimes feel, you know, if you've got it, you should use it. And it maybe wouldn't have been the first colour I would have went to for my dark colour, but it is what it is. And I'm not wasting any more paint, so... now, that is that. So we've got that far. Now you're going to need a skip brush. Now I have one here. I hope I have one here. I had one a minute ago. How did I manage to lose things so quickly? Okay, well, maybe there'll be one in here for me. Oh, there is. Right, okay, so I'm going to take my red and I'm going to put a little bit on my cardboard. I've got a mix mat behind me, but I'm just going to use the cardboard because I just want a little bit of water to make this move, but you don't want it too runny. You don't want it to start running about. And, well, there's a little bit splodgy. Now, I'm probably not going to paint all of it in because remember, I'm trying to make this look like it's distressed. So I'm going to leave some little parts white. When I'm just painting by myself, and you'll see this when you see the footage. My brush is nice and straight. When you point a camera at me, suddenly I've got a really shaky hand. I'm kind of annoyed that I've done that a little bit there. I'm going to see if I can fix it. Yeah. So, I'm leaning on that one. So that's what I'm going to do with the red shapes. And now obviously I need to incorporate the mustard, which was the last colour I have. And I think with the mustard's quite thick. I think what I'm going to do with this is just do something like just kind of run it round here. I want it quite thick, this line, and I'll tell you why, because remember I'm going to be golden leaf. I'm going to be gold leafing.
Golden leafing.
Golden leafing.
That's it.
That's it.
This is it.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
So I will get on. I'm not bothered right now because you can see that I've touched up here with the green, but I'm okay with that because it's going to be gold leaf. So this edge here, you don't need to worry about it, but this edge, the outside edge, yes, you do need to worry about it. So just kind of run it so it looks reasonably tidy. So I just kept some of the colours that were showing through that got dripped on it. I didn't go crazy with trying to get rid of it all. Does that look like a tile matting?
It does.
Does it? No. Once you see my heart's painted in, I don't actually have the right brush for the job now. This is making it very untidy on camera. I'm sorry. My paint is very thick. It's obviously been sitting here for a while. Now, for those that have problems with their eyesight, this is a mustard, but it's not made from my Annie Sloan paint. Well, it is and it isn't. It's got a little bit of brown, which is the hornflower, and it's got a little bit of yellow ochre acrylic. So this is how I met with just a little bit of brown gets that colour there. Now I am going to, because I've seemed to be into this at the moment, doing some crackle on here. I'm going to put some more blue spots to kind of tidy that up. Or maybe it just looks like it's worn. I don't know. I'm quite liking that, Matt. What are you thinking?
Oh, no.
Or you do not think?
I'm not commenting.
Would you not like it?
No, I'm not. I'm just not commenting.
Why?
I like it. I like it.
I want you to comment.
No, because every time I go, I like it. And you go, you always say that.
But I'm actually looking for honesty. Or do you like it?
Yes,
oh,
I
right.
do.
Okay.
I like the whole thing. I think it's magic.
I think
if we had a house with normal door shapes, I'd say, let's put that in, like,
let's put that
in the kitchen or somewhere,
I'm wondering.
It would be awesome.
I'm wondering about here. I'm thinking there's a shape here that when this is dry, I might put here and up here, right? But you've seen me doing this now. You don't.
They'll see it.
Yeah, you'll see me in the camera.
Yeah.
Any sort of
with whatever weird music I decide to put over it.
Yeah, any sort of like bleed through and things like shapes not being perfect. I'm actually all right with that. I'm not gonna start, getting all too complicated about this. It is what it is. So, and this is it. And it's supposed to be an old door on a Moroccan house. So, I mean, let's face it, it's doing its thing. Yeah, I won't do any more with that. Okay, right. I'll get on and do it. Okay, so you saw me on the other bit of footage when I did above, because I've done the above scraping off the texture to reveal some of the blue. So I'd got probably, as far as here. What I was going to say was, you can do this in various ways. You can use various tools to do it. You can use sandpaper if you want. I guess this channel is for everyone, and sometimes people have sensory issues, and sometimes a metal scraper on this isn't very nice. So you could use a plastic one, you could use a palette knife, you could use anything really to scrape it off. And you don't have to scrape it off. You can just keep it really textured. But by doing this, I'm revealing the blue, which makes it even more sort of kind of like, you can see all this sort of blue patches. Now I'm not overdoing it. I'm just gonna quickly show you, but I'm not really gonna do too much because it is quite noisy. And to be honest with you, I am one of these people with sensitivity and I don't really like the metal one. If you do this before it's really not too hard, you can do it with a plastic one, but a plastic one now it's getting too hard to do. So if you want to just kind of chip off some of the blue, just find something interesting and just kind of like work away. Can you see that? See how easy it comes off? And remember all the things that I put the texture on with. That all kind of helps you when you go to chip it off. So you just kind of chip here and there and kind of, do you remember down in here and there was the blue, but then I scattered in the plaster. If I do this in here, you should get something really quite interesting because it's got that sort of shield on it with the clay, so you can go along here and you can get really good like kind of detail and blue and really kind of, I mean, texture stuff is where I'm at. I mean, I love a nice bit of texture, and that's art. Texture's art. Can you see what's happened there? I mean, that makes really cool sort of kind of like just texture, and it gives it movement. And so you get what I'm saying. I'm gonna kind of work my way.
Texture is art.
Texture is
I
art.
was watching a very interesting, this will shock you, Lil.
I'm already shocked.
I was watching a video the other night actually on art, and it was talking about the masters kind of thing in terms of how you can tell the difference between, you know, one of their pieces of work and a forge. It was about forgeries basically, the thing I was watching. And it was all about, you know, the way they use texture and layers.
Yeah, and the way they use their brushes as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm finding that on our channel members because I'm doing a Gustav Klimt, and it's really hard to emulate somebody else's work and how they put their brush strokes down, how they made their texture. But I think texture does do something. Now you can see how messy this is. Why, you know, do it in an old stable. Don't be doing this in your living room floor.
Or just put lots of plastic.
I wouldn't consider doing anything like this in the house over the winter. That's why it's always good when I come out here, because it can be a lot more free. I know there's some good texture here. So you just kind of scrape away as much or as little as you want. As I said, if this is a piece of furniture at this point in time, what I would do is I would just sand some of the sharp parts. You don't want somebody you know, falling on it and taking half their face away. So, you know, but it's okay for my purposes. But I think I've done all I really want to do. All these big things here, I applied it in big splats. I mean, can you see that there? I mean, how long is a piece of string? You could do this all day if you wanted to. But yeah, so I think that's enough of the blue. Maybe I'll do a little bit up here off camera because it's a bit kind of. But if I kind of scrape in here, I'll get more blue around. See if I do something like that. I'm going to catch the blue there. But as I said, you don't have to use a metal scraper. I think something about a metal scraper. It's like the time I used the metal stencil. Ugh. Right. Okay. I think let's call it quits. Can you see that? I mean, look at that. Oh, and look at this.
Oh.
I mean, that's fab. Yeah. There's more here. Anywhere where I put that resist and the plaster was really bleeding onto it will give you that effect. Right. I could do this all day, but I'm going to stop now. Yeah. Okay, what next? Now we're kind of inching closer to the end. I've introduced this navy now, so it's kind of throwing everything off. So what I'm going to do now is I've got this. I am never probably ever going to use this as one, so I'm probably going to cut this out. yeah, I might cut this out because if I ever want to put it back together, I can just put it back together, but I'll use it as one just now. I want a sort of ornateness around here. What have I got here? I put my cardboard over here because I knew I was going to need it. See, again, you need hands like an octopus. I've got my, not a large stencil brush, but it's a bigger stencil brush. I've got the dark blue. I just want to get it so far into my bristles. Yeah, I think that's good. Now, stenciling over texture is always a little bit hit or miss, but it's always good fun. So, you know, don't shy away from it. Or you could even take this a step further and you could make this a raised stencil, if that is your want. I've got enough going on here. I don't think I need any more, but so what I'm going to do with this navy is, and I'm just going to kind of join these up and do this all the way down. I'm sure Martin will catch it on camera, and then after that what I'm going to do, and I'm probably not going to actually talk you through it because you've seen me do it a million times, but I'm going to cover my moulds in the gold gilding adhesive so that they're sticky, ready to apply the gold leaf. So that'll keep me out of mischief for a wee while. Okay, I'm just going to get on and do this. Okay, so it's a new day and I've looked at the stencils, and although the stencils are nice, they're leading it off in a direction that I don't want it to go. So although Moroccan would have all this ornate, that you have to kind of put it back in. Does that make sense? You have to kind of give this a sort of border. So I think it makes sense if I show you here. I've sanded this back so that it's not as crisp, and I've put this orange detail around, and honestly all I'm doing is I'm just following the stencil. That's it. And maybe putting a little point at the top, so a little point, and just following it down. So when I go to sand this, and I'm not even making sure that I paint absolutely everywhere, it's just because it would look kind of distressed. So, and I will be sanding this back quite a lot. So this is all I'm doing just before I get on to putting, I said I'd go on and I'd put the gold leaf size on, but it ran into another day, and I thought when I came back, I need to make this look more Moroccan, and this obviously is the way that I'm going to do it. Now, what did I do here? I didn't have enough for the whole stencil. Now, Mark's caught it on the camera, but I just took the edge of it. And again, just a suggestion of a shape. Something like that. Thick and thin with your brush, because we're going to sand this back. And if this had been outside and it had been really worn, half of this wouldn't even be here. And that's why you can't have things too crisp if you're doing a distressed look. It has to be in context. This can't be perfect and this here distressed. It all has to work in one. So I'm going to get on, and I'm sure Martin will catch it on the other cameras of me going round it all doing this, drying it off, sanding it back, because you don't need to see me sanding it all to distress it. Then I'm going to put the gold leaf size on, and we are creeping closer to the end. So I thought, but then I went in bed this morning, I thought, how about a little mirror in the middle of here? So I'm going to have to make a sort of, what would you call it? These will be glued on, but I need to make a detail with paper clay around this to keep it, so that you don't just see that edge. It has to have a setting. That's what I'm talking about. So, but I'll get to that because that's just more complications that I don't need right now. Okay, I'll get on and do the orange. Okay, so these little mirrors, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a generous dab of all-purpose glue, and I'm going to glue that into the centre of each one of these. Now, once I've done that, I'll just do another couple so that they're all glued on, because I can show you the 4 of these at once. Here. And the last one here. There. Now, next thing, I've got a piece of Das clay here. And I'm going to tint this clay. So I'm going to get what's left over of this. This paint is the paint that keeps on going. And let's put a piece of this in the middle. And this is a messy job. There's no denying it. You're obviously tinting your hands at the same time. And just going to put a little bit more in just to make it a little bit darker. You don't want to add too much because that changes the sort of the structure of the clay, but enough that it kind of saves you having to go back in and paint. Now while this is happening, my gold leaf is drying, my size from a gold leaf. You paint it on and it's white, and when it goes 100% clear, you can stick your gold leaf on with it.
Yeah, like that bit there's still white.
Yeah.
That's still drying.
Now what you're going to do is you're going to roll a sausage shape like this. You're going to get a little bit of your all-purpose glue, and you are going to go around your shape right to the edge, and then I should have thought of bringing something over to cut it with. You're going to cut it. Fix that edge, fix that glue, and then you've made a little keeper for your mirror tile. Now at this point in time you can come along with a tool, which I don't actually have here, but I'll show you me doing it as I go up, because this will get filmed and you'll see me doing a detail in that, and that just finishes that off a little bit nicer. And that's what I'm going to do with all of these. Okay, so I've got something to show you. This is called variegated gold leaf. It's a little bit pricier than normal gold leaf, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. This is how it looks. It comes in all different sort of quite a lot of, some of it is greens. It's really nice. So I'm going to be using this, but I don't want to waste any of this because it's, you know, pricey. So I only want strips, to be honest with you, that are going to go along my molds, and I'm not going to have too much wastage. So let's just cut some of these strips out of here just now. I'll set this to the side. Okay, so I am going to start applying this onto my molds that have the size on it. The gold leaf will only stick to where you put your glue, so
Let's see there. Maybe let's see there.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was just the easier way to pick it up, that was all. There we go. Now, I'm sure you've all used gold leaf before. If you haven't, this is exactly what you do. You put your glue on, then you apply your gold leaf. And really, that's about as complicated as it actually is. When you first do your first pass, which is to stick it all on, I kind of tend to just stick it on first and then get a sort of, I'm not a soft but not too hard brush to begin with to start. That kind of
a 3 bears porridge brush. Not too hard, not too soft. Somewhere just right.
Yeah. So you pop it on with your brush and make sure that it's pressed down in to the molds. I don't really want to lose any of this, so I'm being very frugal. I mean, it wasn't a fortune, don't get me wrong, but it's more expensive than my normal gold leaf, and I've had it for a wee bit and I haven't had anything to try it on, and I thought, well, today is the day. So once you've pushed it in, I just want to do this back down the bottom because, and I'm going to take a full sheet out for this because I want it all to go on here. And then I'll take this other stuff and put it on here so I can show you the brushing. And then I'll get Martin to catch the rest with the other cameras. I've got to tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than gold leafing. It's fab fun. It is very messy, but considering how much mess this is made in the beginning anyway, I mean, this piece has been a really messy one to create. It's all the layers. The layers take the time. I'm just getting rid of all of this loose stuff because I don't want to be brushing it onto the floor if I can help it, because that's just brushing money onto the floor. Right, okay. I think I'm kinda, let's get rid of this part here. Stick that up there. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let's just make sure all of this is got. So again, kind of semi-stiff but not too hard brush, the Goldilocks brush. Tap it in. I can see a part there that hasn't got any on it. I'll steal this bit from up here. 3 hours later. Normally, if it was normal glue, I've slapped it on by now. Right. Okay. Once you've pushed it in, you need a very soft brush. And you just brush and 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 brush until all the little parts no longer brush off. I obviously touched there with my gold. With my size, it's and it just takes a bit of time. To get it on. But I think the variegated stuff will give a really bougie sort of opulent look as opposed to just ordinary. I mean, I toyed with doing it silver, but when I went to my silver, I didn't have enough silver to do it with. Any parts that are on there, we can just scrape away. I mean, they don't need to be there. I mean, you've not made a mistake if that happens, just is. There. Now, that is how that currently looks. I am going to get on and I'm going to do the rest of it now in the same way. I mean, you could brush and brush and brush and still have it floating in the air about 3 days later, but you've got to try and get it all off before you seal it. Because what happens, all the little bits is they move in the sealer and you end up with little gold bits down there, which isn't a bad thing. But on a pristine piece of black furniture, you don't want that. So it's good that if you just kind of keep on brushing it. Okay, I'm going to get on and do the rest now. So we're nearly finished now. And lastly, what I did was I just got from Vintage Textures, the IOD stamp, and I just stamped some texture and I did some crackle on the tiles. So I'm going to go away and I'm going to seal it and be back shortly.
Show the crackle.
So it's finished. It was a little bit messy, this one. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if my floor will recover. Do I like it? Yes, I do. Is it going to be fabulous to have to put things in front of for staging? It's going to be awesome for me. Would I have liked to have done this on a piece of furniture? I think probably I would have. There was nothing tricky about it. You saw me do the steps. I mean, I used the plaster of Paris, but as I said, if you're doing furniture, just use clay. Yeah, that's it. Most of the look is really created by the paint effects, and then I used the verdigris gold leaf, did some stenciling. That's it. That's your lot. That's all I did today. So it feels like it went on for a few days because I had to wait quite a lot different times for things to dry. So it's not something you can get done in an afternoon. But I think this look is pretty cool, and I hope you go and make it. So that's it for today. I've been Lyle from Made by Marley. If you've enjoyed this, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next Sunday.